We start with this word organic, which is a law, and it's more than a law. It's a codified system of enforcement. That requires disclosure. It requires our organic inspector can come here anytime, 24/7, and walk into the plant and look, and they do, or go to our farms. And they do, unannounced. And that's the credibility of the system, is that they can make spontaneous inspections. And also there's severe penalties and fines associated with saying that that's what you are doing and not doing it. So when you go down the list of claims that matter to us, matter to our farms, but increasingly, as I'm saying, matter to millennials, absolutely matter to Gen Z. As I said, it's the one standard that they respect, north of 50%. You get, yeses in all these boxes. Of course, as we know with natural, that word has been lost, right? I mean, I always say that there's ice creams out there that don't change shape when they melt, but they say natural on the front, right? And plenty of abuse in your categories. So you can't rely on that word. It's been obliterated from meaning. Then you have this non-GMO butterfly, which is, of course, a good thing. I already told you the number one problem with GMOs is not the genetic engineering. It's the fact that 90% of it has been used to advance herbicide-tolerant crops. And that should not be a surprise, because these are chemical companies who own these seeds. They're in the business of selling. And the problem with this whole GMO scam, which are, as taxpayers, we've been paying for, because we're talking about Syngenta, Monsanto, Dow, Bayer, etc. And is that not only have they obscured, have GMO seeds basically become 90% of our corn and our soy out there, which feeds a whole hell of a lot of all of our processed foods. But the net result of the overuse, so again, if you don't know the formula, it's very simple. When you use herbicide-tolerant seed, that allows you to use as much herbicide as you want, even to the point where they're now using herbicide as a desiccant. If you can't get your harvester, because you're in such a scale, you can't afford a $5 million harvester, and you're doing it cooperatively with a bunch of farms in your area, you can now kill your crop standing and let it sit there and dry with herbicide to wait until the harvester comes and takes it. So we're overusing these herbicides, but the net result of that is we now have over 100 million acres in the U.S. of herbicide-tolerant weeds, because nature doesn't, when it's being under attack, it doesn't do like a focus group to figure out, what to do, right? It just evolves and mutates, and now you have these weeds. And I was with farmers this weekend in Texas who talked about pigweed, which is like the diameter of that post that you have to take down with chainsaws. I mean, because herbicide, the glyphosate is no longer working. And what that means is they're now starting to bring out dicamba and DDT, herbicides that have been banned in emergencies because the glyphosate's no longer working. So you have essentially a perpetual motion machine, right, to move in the direction of more and more herbicides. So the non-GMO label is important, but because we need to stem that. But again, when you look at the things that actually matter here to a lot of consumers, including the audit trails and so forth, it falls short. So now we have this word regenerative that's out there. And I'm going to try to make a very short work of a very complicated topic. And then, like I say, open this up. But, and I want to distinguish here really quickly and tell you that there is a certification called Regenerative Organic, ROC. There's a Regenerative Organic Alliance. I am not talking, when I criticize what's going on with I'm not criticizing those folks, because ultimately that is the best expression of regenerative, is to be certified organic and engaged in these regenerative practices. It's harder with dairy than with other crops, but it's a really worthy goal because you get all the benefits of organic. You get the audit trail, you get the inspectors, you get the third-party verification, you get the mandatory disclosures. But unfortunately, with regenerative, and there's 3 different entities out there trying to certify, trying to create a standard, and you understand there's no law around. So regenerative can be anything you want it to be, and it is. I mean, I just literally saw regenerative Cheetos being introduced at Walmart. Okay, cheat is probably the right part of that. I mean, again, I just want to underscore, words and labels matter, right? And you just look no further than the USDA organic symbol, and you can see the impacts of having a national standard. I can tell you, I was around before there was a national standard. When we started, organic was sort of a federation of little certifiers, with varying standards. Oregon Tilth had this, Vermont NOFA had this. But in 1990, we passed the national law, which took effect in 2002 with a set of actual rules. And I can tell you can trace organic back and watch 2002, the hockey stick began. And organic just passed the $70 billion mark in sales. So it didn't even exist when we were out. You would count the amount of organic sales out there, maybe in the millions, more likely in the hundreds of thousands. Now we're talking 6% of total U.S. food, fastest growing trend across most categories, right? Because there's a there, and I'm telling you that bubble's going to keep going now with Gen Z. So the definitions matter, and I know that this industry exists because of the standard, but what we've got with Regen is something that is just, the big companies love it, right? Because it makes them sound green without having to actually do anything. And in fact, when you go into it, you will find that there's just a huge amount of exaggeration, disinformation, misinformation, and outright lies happening. And you don't have to take my word for it. I chair, in addition to the organization that Olga is part of, leads the Northeast Organic Family Farm Partnership, I also founded and chair a group called Organic Voices, of which Stonyfield is a part, and so are most of the organic companies and many of the retailers. And as we watched more and more attacks on organic, saying, well, organic farmers till their soil, and therefore they're not really climate friendly, because the claim by the regenerative folks is that when you turn the soil, when you till it, you're releasing nutrients, carbon into the atmosphere. The problem with this misnomer is that it doesn't actually result. No-till, which is the avoidance of that, does not actually get carbon sequestered. It increases the carbon, and if you don't till, you do increase carbon in the upper 3 inches, but not down where the roots are, and that's what sequestration is. And so, in fact, what actually happens is, when Pepsi shows, or Fritos shows, or regenerative Lay's potato chips, what they're saying is it's no-till agriculture. And so as we were watching buyers like Walmart and Whole Foods and others fall prey to this new standard, we convened about a large number of scientists, soil and weed scientists, earlier this spring to do a very comprehensive white paper. It's a 44-page white paper with 6 pages of single spaced references. And you can get it at organicvoices.org, and you should if you're thinking about using the regenerative seal. Be forewarned here, because what it exposes is not a difference of opinion in the ag community. It exposes a consensus that the benefits of no-till are a total exaggeration. And since no-till is the foundation for regenerative brands and regenerative and supermarkets and consumers looking for regenerative, non-organic regenerative need to beware. It is exactly what's happening now is exactly what happened with natural. It's based on bad science. Now, I will tell you, among the scientists that we have used, one of the largest food companies on earth, I'm not going to name them, talked to us, their chief scientist, and he's pissed off because his company embraced this idea of regenerative and put $2 million into one of these certifying groups to go out and coach their farmers on what they could do so they could make a claim to the consumer and sound like they're doing something. And basically what this scientist, I'm going to just shrink a long conversation down, said is all these guys did was they told our farmers to get rid of their plows. That's pretty much it. If you go to the Regenify or the other regenerative seals, you're going to find four things. One, it's all about no-till. And I just told you, and you can go to the white paper and see, it just isn't true. You're not sequestering carbon. In fact, Rodale, 40 years side-by-side field trials, organic no-till, conventional no-till, the vastly superior by a long, long shot in terms of soil carbon sequestration, in terms of biodiversity, in terms of water retention is the organic. And everything else falls off, and the regenerative non-organic is the worst. No carbon being sequestered. I had Secretary Vilsack with me in these fields on Saturday, helping him understand that this word is based on a hollow promise. And believe me, it's going to take one great journalist or 10 great influencers to expose the science here. And if you built your brand with this seal now, you are going to be unhappy. But there's three other things, and I'll just say them very quickly. One, as I say, there's zero focus on reducing toxic and persistent chemicals. Zero. Number two, so there's no requirement if you use the regenerative seal to measure. There's no requirement to reduce. Second, because you've now eliminated farmers' best non-chemical form of weed control, because tilling is how you get rid of weeds. You are forced to use more herbicides. And because you're not driving fertility down into the lower root system, you are using more chemical fertilizers. And this is a climate claim, right? Regenerative. But here's the problem: is when you is the biggest problem in agriculture. You saw 9% footprint is not. It is the use of synthetic fertilizers. Nitrous oxide, which is a direct result, and I'm going deeper than I want to go here, no pun intended, but nitrous oxide is 300 times more impactful than carbon. We're all focused on carbon. Nitrogen is actually the big problem. And the problem is that when you are using more nitrogen fertilizers, you're introducing new reactive nitrogen into the environment. Organic doesn't do that. We use manures and compost. We're just recycling nitrogen that's already here. And so the absence of fossil fuel use makes organic actually the real regenerative. And this is all about to come out. Like, this is like, you could be forgiven for not knowing this stuff, but you can't be forgiven now for going forward without knowing this stuff. Now, third, like I said, there's no set of monitoring practices. In fact, part of the regenerative seal says, one of the lead seals said that several companies in naturally New England are using, says that if you have 20% of your crop following their practice, you can call 100% of your crop regenerative. You can read it in the standard. So the standard has been set by, measured by, monitored by the owner of the standard that you pay to subscribe. So this is not going to work, is my bottom line. And so it's really subjective. And, I'll just sort of summarize this whole nasty topic by saying, I don't believe you can regenerate. The theory of regenerative, and I can tell you that the guy who coined the word is a guy named Bob Rodale, son of the founder of Rodale. I walked the field of Rodale Institute with him in 1979, and he explained what he meant by this word. And what he was talking about was that organic cannot just mean absence of chemicals. Organic has to really mean a climate impact. It really has to mean animal health, worker health, and so forth. But it's been co-opted and it's been taken over like this word, natural. So buyer beware. But I promise you, this paper is now making its way into Walmart and Target and Whole Foods and major institutions all over. And so to just kind of come to the punchline here, however you are communicating to your consumers, and you don't need to have, like I said before, I don't believe you do need advertising. I mean, I know that a lot of your retailers may disagree, but we talked about the co-ops. There's a lot of ways here in New England that you can have a very close relationship to your consumer. You can use your lids, your packaging, to talk about your mission. Obviously, social media gives opportunities that we didn't have back in our day, you know, you might take on, as we did here, a project to convert local parks to organic, or national parks, and this ended up giving us, not national parks, but parks and playgrounds around the country nationally. But this led us to partner with retailers who are looking for authentic connections to share with their consumers. But whatever your means of getting these results out there, I can tell you the results of your mission-based activities. I can tell you it's working. You know, the leading auditing firms out there are showing sustainability marketed, authentically, sustainably marketed products are outgrowing faster than non-authentically marketed products. Lily Tomlin is my favorite philosopher, and she has this line. She says, no matter how cynical I get, it's hard to keep up. And that's how I feel when I see this stuff. So my message to Naturally New England, since, you know, you're not Pepsi yet, not yet, some of you may be, you're not even Stonyfields yet, is, you know, stick to your knitting. You know, pick your mission, pick your lane. Partner with Olga and team on supporting local family farms. Communicate one-on-one with demos, use influencers, use bloggers. Do the things you can afford, but make sure you're doing what it is you say you're doing. Because I promise you, the consumers, you've got tailwinds, you've got wind behind your backs here in terms of consumer trends. The only thing you got to be certain to do is not have somebody come along and expose, and what you said you were doing, you're not, okay?